Hey everyone, it's Marla with Nerdy Mom Studios, and today we're here to give our spoiler review of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. I will be talking about what happens in the movie, giving you a timeline of what happened, and our review. Now, right now, reviews are very mixed. We see that Rotten Tomatoes is 49% and 84% for fans. Do I agree with that? Nah, I don't know. I wouldn't give it a 49% for sure, but I will probably give it like a 75, 78%. I did enjoy the movie, don't get me wrong. It was a good movie, but I think what made it not great for me is that I went in with very high expectations. If you look at my other videos, I was the most excited for this movie to come out, and they did promise a lot, and I think it underdeveloped under I don't know. I think they did what they wanted to do, which was set up the phase 5. So I see that, and they did a good job setting it up. I do give them that. But compared to the other Ant-Man movies, the first one's going to be the best. Second one, I feel like I had more fun with it. And this one was just all over the place, so many different stories in it. So a lot to take in, very Star Warsy vibes, and I know everyone has been saying that, and it's true. It really felt like Star Wars. Someone that I know said it reminded them of Rick and Morty. I've never watched that show, but that's another review I've heard of. And everyone I know who has seen it has also rated it like me. Like I say 7.5 out of 10. But anyways, let's get into it. Don't let my opinion sway you from watching it or not. Go watch it for yourself. It may be your cup of tea. But anyways, let's get started with what happens in the movie. So movie starts off with a right after the events of Endgame, maybe a couple years later, I'm not sure exactly, but they're in San Francisco. He is loving life. He's reminiscing. Him and Hope are doing really well. He is on a book tour reading his book, Look Out for the Little Guy, which we saw a preview of that on the Miss Marvel show. So he gets a call from jail and finds out it's Cassie, which they replaced the actress for Cassie. I don't know why. I can't say I was a huge fan, but let's keep going. So he ends up bailing her out of jail because she was doing protests. She is actually literally looking out for the little guy, doing protests and all that. Um, so we get a better look at their relationship and how she has drawn really close to Hank and Hope, and they actually have been helping her make like a time machine almost. It helps send a signal into the quantum realm. That's when Janet ends up freaking out because now she knows that they're sending a signal down there, and she knows what's down there, so she's very, very nervous. Janet ends up trying to stop the machine from working, and something happens. It glitches, and they all get sucked in, starting with Janet and Hank. And Hope transforms into the Wasp and dives in after them. Then comes Cassie, and Scott goes in after her. All right, so we get our first look at the quantum realm. Now, Scott and Cassie are separated from Hope and her parents because, again, they got sucked in at different times. So this whole part of the movie, it goes back and forth between the two, but I'm going to focus on Scott and Cassie first. So they run into these beings. They're not humans. They look like humans. Some of them do, but very Star Warsy vibes, different creatures and whatnot. And they take them in. They don't understand them because they speak a different language. That is until they meet this blob thing. I think his name was Veb. He gives them some of his own juice, and they can finally understand each other. We also meet this broccoli looking thing. And then we finally meet William Jackson Harper's character, which is Quaz. He is a mind reader, and he was actually really good in this. I thought he was pretty funny. And we also meet Gentora, who's like their warrior queen person of their people. So we learn a little bit about their backstory, why they are in the realm, and they are actually part of like a rebellion. They're trying to fight against King because King has conquered their world down in the quantum realm. And come to find out, these people don't like Janet because they blame her for King and conquering their world. Now go over to Janet and Hope and Hank, and Janet's obviously freaked out because she knows what is waiting for her here, and King's looking for her because King knows she's the only one that can help him. So they're hiding, but they're also looking for Kryler, which is her friend. We'll get to him in a minute. But this is where we finally get a better look at the quantum realm, and then we also get the Janet's backstory now with King. So it turns out he crashed into the quantum realm when she was in there. He told her he was a time traveler who just got stuck. He promised that he can help her get back to the time when she left Cassie. So she helps him fix his machine. And again, it's like this big chair and it's powered by a machine, and Janet helps fix it. As she's putting the machine back onto his chair, it's actually linked to his memory. So she touches it and she sees everything, all of his conquering, all of the death that he has caused and the pain and suffering. And she automatically feels guilty because she knows that if she lets him go out of the quantum realm, he is going to be doing the same thing, conquering other people. And he promises he won't conquer her world. But at what cost? If she wants to see Cassie and let other people die? No. So she ends up destroying the machine. She throws pin particles at the machine and it explodes and is just big thing and floating, and Kang can't use it obviously. So back to Janet looking for Kryler by Bill Murray. um, so turns out they had a relationship, and she knows that he's the only one that could help find Scott and Cassie. And it turns out since she's been gone, he's turned on her and the people and is actually working for King. He warns that which is King, has already sent his killing machine out to find Scott. They already know that he's there and it's too late. So they fight off Kryler, and Hank fights for his woman. It's a pretty funny scene between them. Anyways, back to Scott and Cassie. Their place is under attack because, again, Kang has sent the killing machine towards him. And we also get a look at Cassie's first suit, which she was hiding from Scott. Hank built her own suit, and we see her fight back. And then we finally meet Modoc, which was hilarious. Like, such a funny scene. And yeah, he's played by the guy who played. What is his name? I'm so sorry. I know his name. But he's from the first movie. Definitely giving Spy Kids vibes. But if you look at the comics, it does look like him, kind of. They end up taking in Cassie and Scott back to Kang, and this is where we finally get the scene. Have I killed you? You're an Avenger. Have I killed you before? He tells him, I need your help. Scott is refusing, but he ends up torturing him and Cassie, so he finally gives in. Tells him what he needs to do. He needs to shrink it down. And so Scott ends up getting into the super tiny, tiny person that he is. So these scenes that we've seen all over the trailers is actually where he's trying to shrink himself down and ends up in the place of possibility or probability. And this is where we see a bunch of different variants of Scott. We even get the very funny Baskin Robbins Scott with the name tag Jack. It was so hilarious. But it's the land of probability where all the different ways that he could possibly die. But they end up working together and building this tower. He falls in before he's able to shoot it down. But of course comes the Wasp and saves him. And together they throw all the pin particles at the machine and shrink it. They make it out together, and this is where they finally meet up with Janet and Hank. And Janet is warning him you can't trust him, but Scott says I have to do this because he has Cassie. Kang, of course, doesn't keep his side of the deal, and he ends up taking Janet back as hostage. Cassie was still obviously locked up because Kang didn't keep his word, and she ends up escaping and getting Gentora taken. Like, she helps her escape also, and they both get together and get on like this huge like monitor and tell everyone to fight back. They can all fight back against Kang and his army. And this is Kang is back in his tower with Janet and showing his master plan to get not just him but his whole army there sent back up into the real world so that he can just conquer and destroy more people. So now everyone is fighting back. Scott's fighting back, and then they get most of their people to evacuate because Kang came down and started fighting back. They seem to be losing to Kang until this whole time. Hank actually had like an ear aid in his ear, and he kept hearing feedback, and it turns out his ants got sucked in with him, and while in the quantum realm gained super knowledge and are super crazy intelligent ants, war machine ants, and they come and they start fighting. Cassie has a fight between Modoc and I remember his name, Darren. She tells him, dude, stop being douche and fight for what is right. And he ends up fighting back. He ends up dying. This whole scene was amazing. He straight up just declared himself an Avenger just because at the last moment he switched sides. But very wasted character. It was really funny though, when he died. Anyways, and King gets defeated by the ants. Well, not defeated, but taken back by the ants. Janet figured out how to get them back into the real world with the machine. Just as they're about to enter the machine, um, Cassie's the last one in, so Scott pushes her in because he sees King coming for him. This is where we finally get that really awesome combat scene, hand to hand combat with Scott and King. He breaks his helmet, which makes him not able to shrink, so it's just fighting now. He's about to like knock out Scott, but then the Wasp comes back into the quantum realm to fight back and help Scott. Together, they are fighting King, and eventually they grab their pin particles, throw it at the machine, and it's sucking itself in, and it sucks King in with them and takes him away. For a second, I thought that they were going to be stuck in the quantum realm, but because they closed the gap, that hole where they go in, and no, Janet ended up opening it again and bringing them in. So I guess now they figured out a way to come in and out of the quantum realm. So I think that's going to be very important moving forward. Now the movie ends. Fast forward to them being back in the normal world, and Scott's just starting to feel guilty. Did I do the right thing? Did we really kill him? Is this really it? He said this was good, like this is just the beginning, and he knows what's to come. So he's just feeling really guilty, and it pretty much ends on that note. We get that doubt in our mind. All right, moving on to the end credit scenes. The first one up is we get a look at three different variants of Kang. They look like they're the main head honchos of the Kang kings that there are. And they're basically discussing how that Kang that was in the quantum realm has been killed, and now they're entering. A lot of the Avengers are entering the multiverse, so they call together all their different variants of themselves. This is where we get a look at like some stadium, gladiator stadium type thing with thousands of different variants of Kang, which is very similar to the comics from what I've been seeing and hearing. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the comics. I haven't read them, but I know this. We all know this is going to be huge. And Kevin Feige, all these interviews that he's doing is saying how Kang is going to be a big influence in every single Marvel movie and show moving forward in phase 5 and 6, because this is all leading up to Kang Dynasty, Avengers Kang Dynasty. Now, the second end credit scene is flashback to I think 17, 1800s, not sure on the time wise, but we see a variant of King who's like on a stage and he's like some scientist and is discussing time travel. Then we hear a voice say that's him. And it is Loki. Loki and Mobius are in the audience, and Loki just looks terrified. So this is definitely a tease, and look at Loki season 2, which will be out this summer, and I'm really excited for that one. That one was one of my favorite Marvel shows of Phase 4. And yeah, so that's all of this movie is just a setting up movie. And I think they did really well setting it up. Again, I'm a little disappointed because I did expect a lot more, and that's my own fault. But this movie is good. I don't agree with the Rotten Tomatoes, at least the critic ones. It's not that bad. It's nowhere near Eternals bad or even Thor: Love and Thunder bad. But um, I did really enjoy this movie. Um, a little boring at times. I will say that it was a little boring because again, it's just setting up. There was a lot going on all at once. We had Janet's story, backstory, Kang's story, backstory. Then we had the people who live there, Gentora, her people's story and backstory. Then we had Modoc and his story and backstory and how he became Modoc. And then also in all that, it's Scott trying to protect Cassie, and it was a lot. Very Star Warsy vibes, Doctor Who vibes with the time travel and all that. But overall, I think I will stick with my 7.5 out of 10. I enjoyed Black Panther: Wakanda Forever much more than I did this one, and I do think I may have enjoyed Ant-Man 2 a little bit more just because that one wasn't a setup movie, and it was just its own movie in itself. And um I just had more fun with that. Like, you didn't really have to connect it with anything. Of course, at the end credit scene was a setup for Endgame, but I don't know. I like these Ant-Man movies. It's not the worst trilogy, I don't think at all. Um, but moving forward, now I know to lower my expectations. Next up we have is Guardians of the Galaxy. And so that one's supposed to be the last of the Guardians that we know. And I do I want to say I have high expectations, but it's the last movie. Hopefully their trilogy can end on a good note. Um, the last thing that was missing from Ant-Man and Quantumania was homeboy Luis. He wasn't in there. Really sad he wasn't in there with the Ti and the other guy, but understandable why they couldn't include him. So that's pretty much it for this video. We should be getting Fantastic Four casting very, very soon. So keep an eye out for a video for that. And if you guys haven't already, please check out my Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok under Nerdy Mom Studios. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Please subscribe. That'll be awesome if you guys can help support my channel. Again, thank you guys so much. Please leave your comments down below. What did you guys think of the movie? Did you like it or not? What would you guys rate it? Thanks so much, guys. Bye.